Hello, welcome to Comcast Local Edition. I'm Amy Allison. Our segment today is really focused on how young people and the people who provide services to young people need to be educated about their rights and the rights of youth. Our guest today, Rebecca Gudeman, is an attorney with the National Center for Youth Law, and a lot of your work is trying to educate, nurses and clinics who provide services to youth what is within the bounds of law and what's legal and what's not.
That's exactly right. We have what's called the Teen Health Initiative, and the whole purpose of this initiative is to increase access to care because teens are actually the group that's least likely to get healthcare services of all age groups. And one of the main reasons is because the law is so confusing and so complicated, and it ultimately intimidates both teens and providers alike, and it ends up becoming a barrier to care so that they can't get in for really important needed services.
Well, from a lawyer's perspective, it must be difficult because on one hand you have the rights of parents, right? You have the rights of the provider, you have the rights of the youth. How do you balance it all?
Well, you're exactly right, and that's where California and actually every state has come in and set up some very carefully crafted laws that allow minors in some circumstances to get services without their parents' involvement. And they did so because they realized that teens were in such serious jeopardy. Study after study has shown that at least for some teens and in some circumstances, if they can't get certain services on their own without involving their parents, they simply will go without care.
So be specifics. What, for example?
Well, for example, 25% of current HIV infections are happening in teens, in people under age 21. In California and in every state, minors 12 and older can go in and get tested and treated for STDs, for sexually transmitted diseases, without involving their parents, because we've realized that we could literally be putting them at a death sentence if we don't allow them to come in and get some of those preventive services and counseling.
Now, does the clinic they go to have to report the results to the parents?
They do not, and often what they will do is try to encourage people to work with parents. Another example would be mental health services. Teens who are depressed, and unfortunately, suicide is the third most common killer of teenagers, so this is a real serious issue. Teenagers who are depressed can go in and get services from their school nurse or a clinician or their pediatrician without involving their parents, and then the clinician can decide, once the child's stable and things have they've developed a rapport, when it's appropriate to bring mom and dad in. So they will bring them in at some point, but in the meantime, we've gotten this kid into care and hopefully prevented a real tragedy.
Well, the thing that's confusing to me is that there are laws that say if you hear someone who's underage talking about a situation that puts their life in danger or shows that something is happening, you're by law supposed to be reporting it. So how does that all balance out?
Well, you're right. There's a lot of reporting laws for reporting child abuse, for reporting people who are at risk of suicide, and it's exactly because there's these conflicting laws that providers feel so overwhelmed, they often choose simply not to provide services to teens. And so what we've done is created a website, teenhealthrights.org, to help explain these laws, to make it easy, at least from a legal standpoint, for providers to provide services to teens. So we've got charts that they can download that explain these two conflicting laws, reporting on the one hand versus getting kids in for care. That has an Ask the Expert section. We do a lot of training, and that's exactly what we try to do, make those sort of converging areas work together for providers.
Now, your organization, the National Center for Youth Law, goes and does trainings at hospitals and at schools. And
exactly right.
What is the area, if you had your druthers, you would flood this particular segment with information. Where do you think it's most needed?
In schools, school clinics. Those are the folks who are seeing kids every day, who know what their issues are and who could really provide great services.
All right. Well, thank you so much for talking to us about the issue. Our guest today, Rebecca Gudeman, who's an attorney with the National Center for Youth Law. Thanks for joining us on Comcast Local Edition.